I reckon it's the British Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, that's now the most hopelessly inept politician in the West. And not just because, the other day he called Israeli hostages sausages. I mentioned before how he's also been found accepting thousands and thousands of dollars of freebies, even clothes and expensive glasses from a tycoon, Lord Ali, thousands of dollars worth of soccer tickets, a loan of an apartment, and what a grifter. But it gets worse. Before he became Prime Minister, Keir Starmer taped a very pained message pleading with Britons to obey the pandemic restrictions, like working from home. And you'd assume from the photos and the rest around him that that was what he was doing, working from home.
At times like this, we must all put the national interest first and play by the rules. Getting jabbed, wearing masks, and working from home if we can.
Except it now turns out that that fashionable bookcase behind him looks exactly like the one that starred in a documentary filmed in Lord Ali's apartment. In fact, that was Lord Ali's apartment that Starmer was in when he was telling Britons to stay home. Joining me from London is Patrick Christys, star presenter of GB News. Patrick, such astonishing hypocrisy.
It's absolutely remarkable. I mean, this guy spent years lecturing everybody about decency, being so puritanical it hurts, and then, shock horror, here we are. He's in very, very big trouble over this because he doesn't appear to have declared the use of this £18 million penthouse in his expenses claims. Was he living there during the pandemic? If so, he should have declared that. If he wasn't living there during the pandemic, he shouldn't really have gone there because, as you can hear him say in that video, you're supposed to be working from home. And it's a question of honesty and decency and believability, isn't it? That's before you obviously start answering questions about cronyism and corruption as well. Putting family pictures behind you on a stand there to make it look as though it's your own home. But it wasn't a one-off. He also delivered the message following the Queen's death from there as well. But it gets even worse than this because Keir Starmer appears to have had a very, very close relationship with this multi-millionaire to the point where, very recently, when his son was doing his GCSEs, Keir Starmer took the equivalent of £20,000 worth of a stay at this guy's penthouse again, which he's declared. The only problem for Keir Starmer is that the dates that he was there do not coincide with his son's exams. So it looks as though he could be lying about the reason why he was actually staying there and in the process potentially throwing his own son under the bus. It gets worse, though, even still, because the Labour Party as a whole, it's emerged that their main donor was a Cayman Islands-based hedge fund that invests in things like arms manufacturing, fossil fuels and private healthcare. All things that they claim to hate. They tried not to declare that until after the general election succeeded. And this landslide that he won 82 days ago, I think it was now, he won a landslide. Well, the latest polls show that he's dropped 45 points in the polls. He's now less popular than the outgoing Conservative leader as well. And just finally, Andrew, on this, every single thing he says now looks a bit like a lie. A couple of days ago, he promised that military veterans would get priority social housing. And then we questioned him on it yesterday, and it turns out that they will get the same level of priority for social housing as asylum seekers and people who've just come to this country illegally. Ironically, from some countries that we sent veterans to go and fight in.
Are you being a little unfair, Patrick? You said, this money came from a Cayman Island hedge fund. Are you sure it wasn't a working class Cayman Island hedge fund? Seriously, is this the modern Labour Party now?
Yeah, well, this is the problem. It looks as though it is. And again, it's this idea of being one rule for them and one rule for everybody else. And the prime example to this is actually what he did with his son about his son's exams. So Keir Starmer is looking to bring in a rule where anyone who goes to private school, their parents, presumably, will now have to pay an extra 20% because he's removed the tax benefit that they would have there. OK, but when it came to his own son, he was saying that he was struggling to revise for his exams. So he took a gift of an £18 million penthouse in central London so that his son could revise for a couple of weeks for his exams. I mean, if that doesn't scream two-tier, frankly, and that was what it was. It was two-tier Keir before. Now it's free gear Keir.
But once again, you know, which one of us hasn't helped out their children by popping them into an £18 million apartment for a few days just to give them a little peace and quiet and time for quiet study? I mean, honestly, this is the modern British Labour Party. I mean, if a Conservative did that, they'd be hung, drawn and quartered, and the BBC would be dragging them up and down the street tied to a Bentley just to punish them. Oh, my God. I don't know what's going on there. You have got the worst Prime Minister now in the Western world. I hope you enjoy it. Patrick Christys, thank you so much indeed for your time. Unbelievable. That's unbelievable.